guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the new Urban Decay Wild West Vegan palette. I asked you guys what your favourite shade was and the majority was this kind of teal shade up here called Tex, which surprises me because not many of you ask for green looks very often. It's like a really deep teal. So I decided I would do a look with some of the favourite shades that you guys pointed out. Cowboy Rick was another, Bud and Tex, which is great because that's going to be a kind of like cool toned look, which I've not done for a little while. I've also got a couple of other new products that aren't necessarily new out now, but I've never tried them. So I thought I would just do a tutorial using some of these new products and some that we already love. So yeah, let's get on with today's tutorial. I'm going to start off with an old faithful. This is the MURAD Oil and Pore Control Mattifier Lotion. This has an SPF 45. If you've followed me for a while, you know I've loved this for so many years. It never used to come with an SPF 45, it used to be SPF 15. I was concerned that once the 45 came out there'd be flashback. I actually haven't had any issues with it. When I've used this and I've done a mobile flash, I've not had any flashback. So I'm putting that through the T section of my face. This for me is kind of the ultimate when it comes to oil absorbing, pore minimizing. It's really good. It's one that I've used in my kit for so many years, and I find when I'm wearing a foundation and I know I'm going to be oily in it, this is the one I will always pull out because it's the only product I feel like lasts with my skin. It prevents me being too oily in the day, and I find that when I'm wearing something like the Armani Luminous Silk, which isn't made for oily skin but it is my favourite foundation, if I put this on underneath, it is the only product that will allow me to wear that foundation for hours on end without it breaking down too much. Obviously I always still get a little bit shiny, but it's the one product I know that has my back. And with MURAD products, you know that they are like fragrance free, they're non-comedogenic, they're made by a dermatologist, so it's a really good product. Not super affordable, however, worth every single penny. You get what you pay for. Incredible. Moving on to foundation. Today I'm going to use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous foundation. I'm excited to try this one. It's been out a little while and I only just received it the other day in the post, but I do feel like this is not going to be the ideal match, but we'll run with it and see what it's like. As always, I'm going to put this on with my fingers. So this is a medium coverage, which I believe is buildable in a luminous natural finish, and it comes in 50 shades. I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? It's lovely and silky, and it is definitely a medium coverage. Straight away I can see, although it's covering, I can really sheer it down. I've got moisturiser on, SPF, and then I've got my MURAD Oil and Pore Control Lotion. So you can see it is definitely too yellow for my current winter skin, but it might be better in the summer, but we'll go with it today because we can always lighten the centre of the face with concealer. So it's not a major problem. Just make sure you're going to take it down the neck as well when we're wearing a colour that doesn't entirely match. Probably wearing the wrong top for a darker foundation because my neck and everything's on show, but we'll work with it. So the formulation is long wearing and it is water resistant, so really good if you are going to be getting married in humidity, or you've got a special occasion where it needs to be long lasting. I like that it's medium buildable coverage because then you're not singling anybody out. You can build it up if you want that full coverage, but for those that don't want mask-like finish, this is really good. And it does say it's suitable for all skin types as well. So I'm just adding a very thin second layer just to build up a little bit more coverage. I'm not concentrating on kind of the centre of the face because I am going to go in with a concealer just to kind of lighten the skin so everything blends nicely. I've put a tiny amount of bronzer, powder bronzer, just on my chest. It's such a shame it's not the right colour. I think I'm going to love this foundation. It seems so nice. The texture of it's beautiful, it glides on lovely, it feels satiny. I don't know why more brands don't make that medium buildable foundation. Many of them go really sheer or really full coverage. So bloody nice. Really lovely. It really does remind me of the Luminous Silk finish. It's kind of like a satin beautiful veil on the skin. Oh, it's such a shame it's not the right colour because this will be fine probably in the summer, maybe a bit more neutral rather than yellow. Just in case you're wondering, the shade I've got is 240 neutral, but I do feel like it's quite yellow for neutral. We can work with it. I'm going to do the eye makeup and then I'm going to come back and finish the face. To fill in my brows, I'm using the Urban Decay Brow Blade in the shade Cool Cookie. I've shared this a number of times. If you want to see a full in-depth tutorial on how I use the pen and my tips and tricks, I will leave it in the top corner for you now. As you can see, once I filled in both eyebrows, it gives a really good natural looking finish. As I'm going to be using the Urban Decay Wild West palette, I decided I would use the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion. This is such an old school product. We've been using this for so many years now and it really is so good. It still holds its own. I would say I feel like the formula is definitely a little bit thinner than it used to be, but I think that's a good thing. This one doesn't seem to make your lids crinkle as much as it used to. So this is the Urban Decay Wild West palette. This is a vegan palette and the first shade I'm going to take is Laredo, and I'm taking that on a fluffy blending brush. This is going straight into the actual socket of the eye and we're going to keep buffing that backwards and forwards. Now we don't want to take this too high, so keep buffing exactly where you apply it so that you don't take it up too high. You can also apply a nude colour over the eye first just to make sure that you can buff this in because it is a matte finish and some people do struggle to blend matte tones. On a flat shader brush, I'm taking the matte shade called Text. This was the shade everybody voted for most as their favourite. A tip would be to tap off all the excess product first, so don't worry if the colour payoff is a little bit wishy-washy. You just want to apply a very light layer first and then you can start packing the colour on. Not only will this last a lot longer, you'll get a much more intense payoff. I'm turning my bristles round and I'm extending the colour and just tapping into this little triangle shape so that there's a straight line from the eyelid all the way down to meet the end of the eyeshadow. You want to hold the mirror directly in front of your face so your eyes are dead straight so that you can see that little triangle that needs filling in. We're now going back into the first shade using a small blending brush, and the reason we're using a smaller brush is so that we don't take that colour up again too far. And using that shade we're going to buff into the seam of the deeper teal shade that we've just applied. As I said before, keep your brush to the same area that you've applied the colour. Don't try and start blending it out too high, otherwise it will start to transition into a bit of a muddy colour. Next I'm taking a small amount of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Eye Primer because this has quite a high pigment payoff and we want something almost white because the next shade that we're going to apply is quite vibrant and we want it to look as vibrant as it does in the pan. So having white underneath is going to help with that. So using a small amount of this primer on a flat brush, I'm tapping that directly on the centre of the mobile eyelid. And then you want to start tapping to the left and to the right until it starts to fade into the teal shade. We're creating a soft gradient where the very centre of the lid is the lightest and then we're going to fade that into the teal. So the second favourite shade in the palette voted by you guys over on Instagram is the shade Bud. This is a beautiful cool toned vibrant minty green shade and I'm going to use my ring finger to tap that over the eye primer that we just applied. And then using what's left on my finger to tap to the left and to the right to blend that in between the teal shade and this new minty shade that we've just applied. I'm now going back in with my flat shader brush and very softly re-tapping over the text shade to give it more vibrancy and depth. And once more we're going in with that Laredo shade and just buffing that very softly into the socket line. This next step is optional. You can apply a brown, you can apply a green, but I'm going with a black kohl pencil in the waterline. This one is my favourite, it's by ZOEVA. It's their graphic eyes pencil in the shade Black to Earth. Underneath my lower eyelashes, I'm taking this shade called Pony Up and using a small brush, I'm first starting on the outer third of the bottom eyelash line and connecting that with the outer corner of the top lid, then slowly making my way all the way to the inner corner of the eye. I also then tap a tiny amount of the text colour over the top just to give a hint of the same hue. Next I'm going into the lightest shade in the palette called Stand Off and I'm adding a wash of that colour on the inner corner of the eye and also the brow bone, and this will give a really soft subtle matte highlight. Going back to my ZOEVA Graphic Eyes pencil in the shade Black to Earth, I'm smudging that along the root of my eyelashes, keeping it super close to the root. This is really important if you have small eyelids, otherwise you're going to overwhelm that beautiful light green shade that we've got on the centre of the eyelid. You can also use a matte black eyeshadow if you prefer. Next I'm going in with these PROeffects lashes by LashBase. These are a hybrid between professional lash extensions and strip lashes. They are similar to the style of Lashify and false scara lashes. However, there's just no comparison when it comes to the quality of these eyelashes. The band on these individual strips is so thin, they are completely and utterly invisible and you cannot feel them at all. If you've tried Mascara or you've tried Lashify, you'll know they're a little bit uncomfortable underneath your natural lash line. Whereas these, when you wear them, are undetectable, you just can't feel them at all. So they're applied in the same way that you apply the Mascara or your Lashify. You use a lash bond, but this one is absolutely miles and miles better than the ones I've tried before. Previously I've had tiny corners of the lashes coming down with other brands, whereas the LashBase, once they're on, they do not move. As I showed you on the side of the box, you also get a mix of 3 sizes, which is great because it gives you the ability to customise your lengths, your thickness, what kind of finish you want. The beauty of them being so thin on the band is that you can layer these and you're still not going to feel them, and they're only $14.99. Before I put mascara on my lower lashes, I want to do my concealer and lighten in the centre of the face, and then I'll do my mascara because I will likely get the concealer on it otherwise. So today I'm going to do the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. This is a favourite of mine for when you're wearing heavy eyes. You can afford to wear a more full coverage concealer because it doesn't look out of place. If you had like very nude eyes and really full coverage face, it just feels like something's missing. So the shade I'm using is Nude. So I'm going to pop this underneath the eyes, a little bit here where I get redness, chin and the forehead. I'm going to take a damp sponge to work that in. I find when you really press this into the skin with a sponge that's damp, it picks up the excess product, so it's not too heavy on the skin and still looks flawless but without looking over the top. So I'm going to bounce that up and out to kind of lift the face. To set my concealer in place, I'm going to use Loose Setting Powder by Anastasia Beverly Hills in the shade Vanilla. This is huge, it's such a massive pot. Taking a powder puff, I'm going to press that underneath the eyes so I don't disturb the concealer, but it presses it into place. You can see that really does help to mattify the skin. It's kind of diminished a bit of that yellow tone. My favourite bronzer, as you know, to warm up the skin is this one by Bare Minerals. This is the Endless Summer Bronzer in the shade Faux Tan. My sister always says she doesn't get on with this one because it feels like it never comes out, because I do feel like when you first get them, where it's been pressed, it's almost like it's got a bit of a film over the top. So we're going to use this to warm up the skin. We've taken some warmth down from the areas that we want to, but now we need to put warmth back in to kind of shape and sculpt the face. The brush I'm using is the ZOEVA 132 Luxe Powder Finish brush. You'll see I use ZOEVA brushes all the time. I also use them in my professional kit. I like to use what's left on the brush just to dust that underneath the eyes to take down a little bit of that starkness. Just gives it more of a natural finish. Also going to take it just up on the forehead. So my favourite colour blush, as you know, is a coral. I don't really suit pinks too much, so I do tend to stick with corals. So I do apologise if you guys get bored of seeing coral colours. It's just that pink kind of doesn't suit my skin tone as much. The one I'm going to use today is part of the Claudette collection by NARS. And I'm going to use this beautiful coral shade. The complementary colour to blue is orange, so coral is a good shade to use when you're using greens and blues. On the apple of the cheek, but just stipple it backwards because we have got a heavy eye. You don't want this to be too over the top. For my lips, I'm going to use this Plump Line lip pencil by Buxom Cosmetics. It's so pretty. Corally up my street. This one is called Confidential. These are lovely and comfortable to wear. So that completes today's makeup tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a splash of colour, which is a nice change. The eyes aren't a colour that I know everybody would wear, but I honestly encourage you to try it and just have fun with it. If it was a evening look and I was wearing something that was kind of greeny blue, I would definitely sport this. It doesn't close the eyes up too much because we've got that halo bright colour in the centre. It keeps the lids looking a lot bigger, which is a nice little trick if you have hooded eyes. You can put this colour over the hood, so even if my eye was a bit hard because I don't have hooded eyes, this eye's not as big. But see where the line is? If I'd gone above that line ever so slightly, it would still give the illusion that I've got a bigger eyelid. So it's a nice little trick to try. Obviously I chose these colours today because you guys on Instagram chose these colours as your favourite, so that's why I decided to do a look with them. So if you do want to have a little input to what goes on the channel over here, you can also come and request it over on Instagram, where I show most of the products over there, and then you guys can tell me if you want to see them over here. All the products I've used will be listed and linked in the description bar, whether you're in the US, whether you're in Canada, EU, worldwide, UK. I'll do my best to link everything, so no matter where you are, you can try to shop the products that I've used. Sometimes I'll put an alternative in. If for instance you can't get it in the US or you can't get it in the UK, I'll try and put an alternative in, so just click the link and have a nosy. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll always do my best to get back to you. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye!